Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm actually going to be showing you a couple of different pattern cutting options and a demonstration on stack cutting. In the garment industry, stack cutting became popular back in the late 1800s as the machines, a lot like mine that I'm going to show you in this video, were created to save time on cutting. This actually reduced expenses and made mass manufacturing a big deal. So these machines, a lot like mine, can actually have blades of 4 inches or bigger depending on the machine, and when laid over cloth, the blade travels at 12.5 inches per revolution, which is about 4/5 of a mile a minute, or simply put, 48 miles per hour. Whew, okay, so keep your fingers, your toes, your hands in the ride at all times, unless you only want less fingers or toes. Okay, before we get started with that, let's jump into showing you my pattern. This is actually a popular cosmetics bag that I created some time ago. The finished product has a base that's about 3 inches wide, it's about 3.5 inches tall, and about 9 inches wide. I do have these in various sizes, but I wanted to show you with this smaller one. In my personal opinion, there is no limit to what you can do with these cosmetics bags as far as like design and color. If you find a fabric that you really like, or like me, if you have a clothing label like I've got right here, I mean, the world is your oyster with these. They're really fun to create, and they're really easy to actually build as well. One thing I did want to show you guys is the stiff rigidity part of all my bags. This one I actually used a foam interfacing in between the outside and the lining of the bag to give the bag a little bit more stiff, rigid feel to it. I don't like just regular fabric cosmetic bags because I don't think that it holds what I need it to hold. And I want my makeup to be protected, or whatever you put in your bag. But as you can see right here, the walls of this bag are actually pretty sturdy. So interfacing, I'm going to do a different video on it because that is a whole different story. Now, the outside of the bags can be made out of all different types of fabrics. Some of these fabrics, like this one right here, is like a cotton fabric that's got like a vinyl type of material put over the top of it already in its manufactured state. And this stack, and this stack I got yesterday. I'm going to kind of go through and show you them, but we're going to use all of these for this demonstration. Now, first things first, I'm going to take out this piece of fabric. I'm going to show you with the pattern that I actually created. It is too wide to actually put on a folded over 45-inch piece of fabric. Boo-hoo. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have to open this piece of fabric up. And one thing I can't stress enough, make sure that the right side of your fabric is facing the right way. And what I mean by that is like the directionality of your fabric. If you have a fabric that has coffee cups like this one does, you want to make sure that the coffee cups are facing up in your finished product and not down. So what I do if I'm cutting these out singly, I can use the space over to the left hand side for another side of the bag. But what I would do is I would lay this pattern out on the edge next to the selvage, and I would cut straight across here and move the fabric up. And this is so I could create 2 bags at once. Now, do not do this. Do not take your fabric and flip it up this way, because you'll cut 4 pieces out, but you'll have one going that way and you'll have the other one going that way. Don't do that. It's a big mistake. Trust me, I know. Okay, so what you'll basically want to do is watching for the directionality of your fabric. Move everything out of the way. We're going to place this right here, and we're just going to cut out a little section because I might use the centerpiece for something else. And we're going to cut this part out right here first. Oh, another thing you could do. You could always turn your fabric to the wrong side, like I am showing you right here, so it's right sides together. And you could use a pen to trace out the outside of your pattern and then go through and cut it out with like either a regular pair of tailor scissors like these ones, and you can always cut out your pattern, or if you're using several different layers, like 4 layers. You could use this pair of scissors, which is actually a tailor scissor that they use in the garment industry, which I think for a project like this might be a little bit overkill. So we're gonna put those bad boys away. And then there's always the rotary cutter. Now, rotary cutters do come in different shapes, different sizes. I have found that the Fiskars, like this one, I've used for years, and you can tell it's seen its days. Then there's this little teeny one, which is good for getting around smaller patterns, which is pretty much the same thing as this white Fiskars. And usually when I'm doing projects like this, I will go with the white Fiskars. So, moving right along, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this little block. And sometimes your fabric might bunch up in front of your blade, so you just kind of rock your blade, not really backward, but just kind of jerk it through the fabric. I don't know, do what you do. Everyone's always got their methods for these, but okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the corner sections in, and I'm going to cut those out afterwards, but I'm going to cut out around the whole area. Now you could use your rotary cutter for the corners, but I usually like to go in with a pair of scissors and cut them out. And then now here you'll see that I have basically 2 outside patterns or 4 layers of fabric that I cut out with the rotary cutter. This is a flannel type of fabric that they call, I think, cuddle or something like that, and it's great to work with, but the more layers that you try to cut through, the harder it gets. And my obsession is hanging out like a sore thumb. Yesterday I actually went to the fabric store and found all of this really cute fabric on sale and decided I wanted to make as many of these cute little bags as I could at once, and I want to show you at the same time. Yeah. Okay, we're going to push all this aside, and I'm going to introduce you to, well, she doesn't have a name yet, but this is my electric rotary tool. And there are several different types of rotary cutters that can range from small to like really big table cutters to the industry size. But today I'm going to show you on my 4-inch rotary cutter from Yamaha. He's a little guy, but he gets the job done, so I'm not hating. Now, because I'm a dipshit and do not do this, when you go to order your rotary cutter online, make sure that you get a US so you don't have to use this step up step down machine, because well, I didn't read quite on the website what I was supposed to get. But anyway, on the side of this rotary cutter, you'll see right here there's like a little light switch, and this actually turns the machine off and on, and I always turn it on right when I'm getting ready to cut. When I'm done making my cut, before I pull the rotary cutter back, I turn it off. There's a safety slide on the front of the blade that you can adjust up and down depending on how many inches you're cutting through. Now, my electric rotary cutter is table safe. It's got these 3 little rollers on the bottom of it. The blade is recessed back so you can roll it across the table. And the one thing that you are going to want to make sure that you get is some kind of paper. Not parchment paper, like this is painter's paper that you find over at the store, but you can use a craft paper as well. This stuff works great underneath your pattern, so that way you can slide around the table and your fabric doesn't get caught on, I don't know, like on this table that I'm working on right here. You can see that this type of fabric right here can actually get caught on the cutting boards that are this, like the self-healing mats and stuff like that. So what I'm actually going to do right here is I'm going to take and cut out different sections or blocks of fabric out of all of these different stacks of fabric that I've got, and we're just going to go ahead and cut them roughly about 10 inches wide. I'm just using that pink flannel fabric over on the side as a gauge. You don't have to be so completely precise, but you do want to make sure that the piece that you're cutting out is roughly about 1 inch in diameter bigger than the pattern that you're cutting through. Because anything smaller than that, then you might run the risk of actually not cutting through it properly. And that's a lot of fabric. Okay, so then, and the reason I'm speeding up through this is a lot of work. But you're going to take all of your fabric and you're going to stack it on top of each other like you see me doing here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our paper that I showed you before, And like I said, I got this in the painting section over at Walmart. And I'm just going to cut with the edge of my table a piece of paper off that's a little bit bigger than the actual fabric. And I'm going to take all of that fabric and I'm going to stack it on top of that piece of paper. Like I said, that's just going to help this whole stack of fabric be able to shift and move around the table without actually having to move your table. Now over here on this side is where all of my selvage ends are at. And I want to make sure that I line all of those up. I think I'm done. Okay, we're going to line all those up and then we're going to do the next layer. And this is all my fleeces. And the further that I'm getting into here, I'm noticing that I'm probably going to have to distribute, because it's getting kind of high. I'm going to actually use some of the rest of that fabric in the other stack. And I'm going to put 2 of these yellow fabric to the side so I can put those on later. And yeah, this is roughly about an hour of cut time and literally 10 minutes of an hour of prep time and like 10 minutes of cut time. Now make sure that you always put your pattern the right way. Big note. And what I do is I always set the pattern piece roughly about 1.5 inches away from that selvage edge. And if you can't remember which way your pattern is supposed to go, look through your stack. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pen and I'm just going to draw around the outside of the pattern. Now the reason that I'm doing this step is because it will actually keep your patterns nicer longer, because if you've ever cut the side of your pattern off, you notice your pattern starts shrinking and not fitting. This will actually save you. Now on to the fun part. We're going to cut right here because I don't need all of that extra fabric. It'll just get in the way. So I'm going to use this first line as my cut line. I'll raise this up a little bit. And we'll just go. And first thing that I can say is go sweet and steady. The first time that you do this, it might seem kind of intimidating, but it really isn't. Like, it kind of scared me the first time, but then I was like, oh my gosh, this is saving me so much time. And I absolutely love stack cutting now. Okay, so one thing I'm going to show you right here is that this little white triangle that I'm pointing at in the blade, that piece is what is not going to get hit unless you finagle your machine like you see me kind of doing right here. It probably won't cut. So you might actually have to push your blade a little bit further, which I didn't want to because I wanted to kind of save this fabric from getting chopped into, because this, you can actually take this later and open them up and you'll have more bags or something else. So we'll put this to the side and we'll come back and finish cutting this pattern out. Now I'm not going to cut the little triangles down at the bottom. I'm sorry, the little square parts right here until the last. And you'll see right here, I have to go in with a pair of scissors and just kind of snip out the tail end of those little squares. And it's no big deal. There's some pattern pieces that you can't get to as easy. And repeat. And just so you know, what you're watching right here, if you can't count as quick as I can speed up my video, there's 6.5 dozen layers of fabric. So that's 78 pieces of fabric that I have basically just cut through right here, which in the end, it takes 4 pieces of fabric to make one of the little cosmetic bags. So this is actually 19 bags, which means I'm going to have to go through and cut 2 more pieces out by hand. And there you have it. 78 layers of fabric. Gotta love it. That's so awesome. Look at that. So here is the scrapper math. See what I did there? Scrapper math, get it? But all this won't go to waste because the little triangle parts that we cut out from the sides, I'm actually going to use those for the little side loops for some of the cosmetic bags. And now just to find time to sew these all together. I hope you guys learned something. If not, enjoyed my fabric ramblings. And if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down below. And if there's a video you guys want to see, definitely let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on all other social media, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.